Hey, sports fans, it's world champion handicapper Mike North. Punch this number in your phone right now. If you're driving, pull over. 1-800-808-3419, 1-800-808-3419 for a free pick and info for the premier handicapping site in the country, VegasScoresAndOdds.com. It's the only site you'll ever need with expert handicappers like John Anthony, Denny Macklin, Tony Sacco, Ray Monahan, yours truly, and many more. Check out the homepage of VegasScoresAndOdds.com for a tote board with your buddy. Follow Vegas Scores and Odds on Twitter and dial up 1-800-808-3419. It's 1-800-808-3419, 1-800-808-3419, or go to VegasScoresAndOdds.com.
Hey, what's going on, Barroom? It's Cars here for this week's installment at Cars Keys for Week 4 against the Minnesota Vikings.
Cars Keys is written and hosted by Matt Carstensen and produced by Matt Carstensen and Aldo Gandia. It is suitable for all audiences.
It's tireless to always say that this is a must-win game, but with the Vikings sitting at 0-1 and us sitting at 0-1 in the division, it's going to be extra important, right, to try to gain a game lead. This always matters. So let's just dive right in. The first key for me this week, and boy, everyone here is going to think, wow, this Cars is such a genius. It's to limit the big Dalvin Cook plays. Yeah, he's their offense, but it's really because Mike Zimmer's utterly fascinating to me. Right, this is a team that's got paying Kirk Cousins $29 million. They're paying a combined $20 million to Diggs and to Thielen, but he continues to push run first. You got to remember that this is a guy that last year they hired DeFilippo and they fired him because he did not run the ball well, enough. Even though the offensive line was garbage, it just wasn't there. The blocking schemes weren't there. And so this year they've kind of gone the exact opposite route. Stefanski was the guy who took over last year, and he showed a little bit more of a steadying hand, but they went out and added, Gary Kubiak as an offensive assistant, added Rick Dennison off at the offensive line, and the run coach, and that's why you're seeing this big change, right? This zone blocking to open up the run, this heavy emphasis about the run. Now, the reason I bring this all back to Mike Zimmer is Mike Zimmer is an old school defensive head coach. Right? Control the ball, control the time of possession, keep my defense off the field because my defense is very good when it's rested, and everything's going to be great. You look at that Week 1 game against Atlanta when they could force turnovers, and it was Atlanta's offense that just kept giving up the ball, and the defense looked really good. You fast forward to Week 2 against Green Bay. That defense looked brutal in the first half, like most seem to have done against the Green Bay Packers so far, but they figured things out in the second half. And then just came the complete, kind of obliteration of the Oakland Raiders, but that's really to be expected. So the reason I keep saying that is this whole thing is about resting this defense. He wants to limit turnovers. He knows that throwing the ball leads to that. As good as Diggs is, he does tend to fumble every now and then. Cousins is pretty accurate, but, he can fumble a lot when he's getting hit. And so he wants to limit that. This is supposed to be for better ball control, right? For more time. But ironically, the Vikings are averaging about the same time of possession this year as they did last year, and that's with a heavier emphasis on the run. That run-pass balance through 3 games, they've rushed the ball 103 times. They've passed 63. Hell, Dalvin Cook himself has 57 rushes as compared to the 63 passes that Kirk Cousins has thrown. In 2 of the 3 games, they've actually had more yards on the ground than they've had through the air. Now, there's been various reports about Diggs, whether or not he's asked for a trade or he's disgruntled, and there's a lot to understand for that, right? Through 3 games, he's got 6 catches. He's been only targeted 10 times. Thielen hasn't been a whole lot better, sitting with, I think it's about 12 catches or 11 catches on 16 total targets. So the passing game just isn't there. And the main reason for this is their offensive line can't pass block. They've been very efficient in the run blocking game, and this is why Minnesota continues to go back to it. And then, what is Kubiak known for, right? He loves play action. He loves to play off the run.
First down at the 35 of the Raiders. Play fake, and on the rollout, Cousins looking, and wide open is Thielen, and he'll score for the Vikings on the opening possession.
Cook has been somebody that's hit big runs in the first quarter, second quarter, third quarter, right? He's been someone that's been an ultimate home run threat.
Dalvin Cook, that's what he can do.
And that's really kept defenses honest.
There he goes. Dalvin Cook all the way in for a Viking touchdown.
So if you look overall, that Cousins, I think, has only been sacked 2 times so far this year. But if you've watched any of those games, there's always pressure on him. There's people falling around him, right? He's about to get hit as the ball gets released. So they need this run game to keep this offense anything. And what do we know about the Bears, right? They match up very well, that the run defense is something they're known for. But I go back to games last year like Miami, right, where Miami was able to control the ball on the ground, even though we're a very good run team, because we didn't take it seriously. We need the guys in the second and third level to play a lights-out game. And the good news there is, right, Trevathan and Roquan to date have been so effective. They've been extremely solid in their tackling. Eddie Jackson has actually been, yes, there are plays that he's missed, but he's been much more of a run enforcer. He's actually laid some wood. That stuff is going to have to happen. There are going to be plays where Cook is going to get to that second level. It's just his ability. It's just how he is. And we have to clean those up. Now, Cook is also someone that can fumble the ball.
This drive, and the ball is out. Cook lost it.
This is the other portion of those guys on the interior.
Bears think they have it. Waiting for the signal.
He can cough that ball up. He's not always the most ball-secure person.
They do. You can see
we need to make sure that continues to happen. Normally I'd sit down and say, this is kind of the game where a normal team would look at what the Bears have done, see their strength defensively, see the way that they've actually played some soft coverage, right? The way that Washington was able to march down on a 97-yard drive last week. A couple of the longer drives for Denver the week prior, right? That there's the soft coverage overall that the Bears are playing. Usually most teams would look at that and be like, we're just going to start to attack them through the air and make them pay. But this is Mike Zimmer. They're going to run the ball. They're going to continue to push. They're going to try to give that defense all the breathers in the world to go ahead and attack our offense. So if we could make them one-dimensional, and let's be candid, right? That's what everybody's done to us so far, is take away the run, and I'll talk about that a little later on. But that's what they're going to do. He's in this to save his defense so that they're rested, they can attack, they can go out and just try to cause havoc. The second key is really stop Everson Griffin for me. So for those of you that listened to 100 Proof last week when we talked a bit about the defense, and I have tremendous respect for Hunter, right? He's an extremely gifted athlete. He's a fantastic pass rusher. He's been solid for the last couple of years. But the defense has taken an uptick this year in Minnesota after some regression last year. And that reason is a return to form from Everson Griffin. If you remember last year, he kind of started slow. He ended up having the issue where he was kind of deactivated for some mental health concerns. But this year he's back. He actually leads the team in QB hits at this point with 6, one more than Hunter. So he's been extremely effective. And the other portion that we talk about with, last night on 100 Proof was Bears tackles not named Bobby Massey, even Cornelius Lucas, but Charles Leno has really had some struggles, right? And so that's kind of a side where I'll expect to see Everson Griffin lined up. Because of the attention that Hunter is going to require, That's why you're seeing Bradley Sowell called up. You're going to see some more heavy formations. You're going to see a lot more two tight ends, and that's to give the tackles help. You have to be able to limit Griffin so that you can kind of start to focus that work, all that effort on Hunter, and go to some more 3 wide out sets. The reason I go back to that is when you get past that defensive line, and it's not just those two. Linval Joseph has had a very good year so far. He's very disruptive in the pass game. He's actually been around the quarterback a little bit. But when you get to that linebacking core, it was something I talked about last year. These are guys that you can exploit in mismatches. However, we've had 0 play out of our tight ends, 0 performance, 0 threats. Tariq Cohen hasn't been the player that we've expected him to be. So as much as I'd like to say we need our tight ends to hit that second level, and I'm going to call and expect for a bigger game out of Trey Burton this week, I'm not going to rely on that so much. Where they're weak is at their cornerback. Now, Anthony Harris and Harrison Smith have been really good this year, right? Those are the guys that have their 3 interceptions. Harris having two of those, Smith the other. And if you remember back to last year, right, Anthony Harris really made a few plays where he made Mitch look pretty bad.
Fires, and that's going to be picked off at the 36-yard line. That's Harris, his second interception of the game. And a good run back here with blocking in front, and Harris takes it all the way down to the 31-yard line, and that is exactly what the doctor ordered for the Minnesota Vikings.
Their safety play has been above par. It's been really, really good, actually. But the cornerback play continues to be a struggle. You know, Xavier Rhodes is not the lockdown guy anymore. Trey Waynes runs so hot, so cold, you don't know what he's going to be. You know, Hughes is coming back from major reconstructive surgery. Mackenzie Alexander is more of a threat to me as a, blitzer guy in the slot on third down, not in coverage. These guys aren't defending a lot of passes. It's all on Smith and Harris. So I go back to Griffin, right? If you're going to attack this team, you're going to have to do this through the air. You're going to have to stretch them vertically. You're going to have to take shots. But that's not going to be able to happen unless you could stop the 2 edges. And I'm going to take for granted that we're going to be chipping and blocking and leaving people in on Hunter. But that means that Leno, or if they swap Massey, have to be extremely good when Griffin's on the other side. He's, to me, more disruptive in the run game. He's a better pass rusher than some of his numbers have shown. And if he can stay healthy, which I know he's a little nicked up leading into this game, stopping him is going to limit that pass rush. Zimmer loves to come at you with 4. If he can generate rush with 4, he's a happy guy. But he gets desperate. If the pass rush isn't there, he knows that it's exposing his cornerbacks. He knows that it's exposing his linebackers in coverage. He's going to get more aggressive in those blitz calls. And that, again, is going to leave things open for deeper plays. And so that's, again, I keep going back to, if you could stop Griffin and make him less of an impact, we're going to be able to challenge everybody vertically. The third key is going to be a repeat from last week, and that's you need a better definition of yourself offensively. I felt like last week against the Redskins, we did a much better job of defining ourselves. You saw Cohen's numbers kind of, from the number of snaps, start to decrease. He's still playing, for my taste, a little bit too much as a slot wideout with Gabriel. But what did we do last week when we got effective? We played with tempo, and we were able to do that because we minimized the amount of substitutions, right? We kept going out. The first series, it was the first 4 or 5 plays we rolled out there. It was Burton with Patterson, Robinson, and Gabriel on the outside, right? And we just went the first 4 or 5 plays with tempo with those guys. And the first play, I believe we had Burton out by himself. The next play, I think we had Gabriel out by himself, or it might have been Robinson, right? We kept going 3 heavy on one side, and then we shrunk, right? We stretched everybody else, and then we went that same formation, and we shrunk everything up, and that allowed the quick outs and the crossing patterns to give us more spacing. That's the sort of thing that needs to continue to happen. I was really thrilled that last week we started to see a few slants. There are two routes that I think that Mitch is very effective at. First is at curl routes, right? Those comeback routes, he seems to have a very good feel for that. Now, again, with Gabriel and Cohen out there, those aren't the best routes for those guys to run, but I digress. The other route that he throws really effectively, and he seems to have a very good lineup with Allen Robinson on, is the slant.
As he gets it quickly on the slant to Robinson.
Allen is great at getting off jams. He's very physical. He's great at creating space. The slant needs to become more of a staple. And so we need that to happen. And so, again, with Gabriel not practicing in the last 2 days, I don't expect him to be active. I expect them to take a little caution there, right? Especially once you get in the concussion protocol. So whether it's Robinson, whether it's Wims, whether it's Miller, obviously I think Riley Ridley is going to be active for the first time this year. The slant play has to be there. The crossing routes have to be there. But more important than any of those things is for once you have to start to stretch the ball vertically. And that's going to be a challenge against Minnesota, right? Their center fielders are very effective at breaking up pass plays, at crowding the line and then really quickly getting back into deep coverage. We saw them do this time and time again last year against Mitch. That's going to be a staple. But we need to attack them vertically. Watch that Redskins game. Look at how many times there were 8 to 10 guys sitting in that box, daring us to run, daring us to do these quick hit pass plays, right? They were just begging for something to come over the top, and we didn't do it. Part of me wonders if we just didn't take them seriously enough and we didn't want to show a whole lot until we got to Minnesota, because it's very important for us to be at a point that we're 3-1 through a quarter of the season with really no preseason whatsoever. But you've got to start to take the lid off this thing. Everybody's clamoring for more focus of a run, right? Run the ball, run the ball, run the ball. It makes zero sense to run the ball with 8 to 10 men in the box consistently, as much as I want to. You're just asking in a first down or second down play, if I'm running against an 8 to 10 man box and I don't block it perfectly. And again, if you heard us talk on 100 Proof and if you heard what Yurko said on 100 Proof, the three biggest disappointments for the Bears have been Kyle Long, James Daniels, and Charles Leno. You can't expect the run game to tear off until that gets fixed. Now, pass blocking, they've been better, and I think that James Daniels is slowly starting to pick up some steam here. But the run blocking is just not there, and it's harder to do when there's 8 men. So you've got to push the ball vertically. I know that that's probably going to lead to an interception or two. We should kind of walk into this expecting that. It's not necessarily, an indictment of Mitch. Again, Smith and Harris are extremely good at what they do. Zimmer's very good at getting the most out of them. But just the threat of taking the top off the defense being there is going to do wonders for this offense. So just like last week, go with tempo. Go with the same personnel groupings. Keep stressing the defense with them. Last week they did a tremendous job of making David Montgomery, more of a 3-down back, and watch some of his pass blocking in pass protection, right? He picked up blitzes pretty well. He had some pretty significant blocks on picking up blitzing linebackers and defensive back. He's your best playmaker. He needs to be on the field more. I'm okay if Mike Davis is coming on the field, but don't do it every third down. We don't need a third down back. We have a 3-down back. This is the 4th game. I said it earlier. This is a chance to take your Minnesota Vikings team and put them 0-2 in the division. That's a hard thing to come back from. So we need to push them to that brink. When we talk about key matchups, from everything I've said, some of these are really easy. The key matchups for me is going to be Cook and Madison against Trevathan and Roquan Smith. Right? Those guys have been getting to that second level. We need to win that battle. We need to truly make them one-dimensional. Second is obviously, right, Hunter and Griffin, Leno and Massey. That's going to have to be a battle that we win more often than we lose. I'd ideally like to see a lot of times where we're confident in not having to leave other guys in there, especially on Massey's side. But that's a battle that we're going to have to win, because if we start losing that and you start seeing Sowell in because he's more of a sixth lineman, fifth tight end, whatever he is, he's in this week because last week Ted Larson was out there for heavy formations. They don't want to do that again. They want Sowell for that, and that's what he's going to be there for. But the less that we can do that, the more that we can leave 3 actual wide receivers, not Tariq Cohen, but 3 actual wide receivers on the field with Trey Burton and challenge them, that's going to make the difference in us being able to take the top off this game. And last but not least, is going to be the Linval Joseph versus Kyle Long. I don't know what's going on with Kyle. I thought last year in the playoff game, coming off of injury, he played extremely well. That hasn't carried on to this season. Linval is so disruptive in the middle at absorbing blockers that normally this is a play that you go, all right, well, Kyle's strength will match up 1-to-1 on him, right? There'll be some plays he wins, but overall, Kyle's just going to win that matchup. You can't have that same confidence with what's happened. What kills an offense more than anything is immediate pass rush from inside. And while Linval isn't known for his pass rushing, he's strong enough and disruptive enough that he can actually collapse pockets. And that's where we really need, Kyle Long to hulk up here and really fight him off. Last but not least, right, the 3 key players for me. I've said, and I said earlier, the tight ends have been a non-factor to me. I'm officially writing off Adam Shaheen at this point. I think there's enough on there. It's unfortunate. I know that Phil's boy was Kittle, and I think we definitely missed out. But we need this to be a Trey Burton game. I'm not talking about 100 yards. I'm not talking about 2 or 3 touchdowns. I'm talking about him being an actual threat in the pass game. The fact that he's been full participant in practice the last 2 days tells me that he's healthier, but he needs to do something this week. Barr cannot cover him. It should be a matchup nightmare for them. Kendricks should not be able to match up with him. This should be something that he wins. If he does not win, this makes the offense struggle a lot more, and it concerns me for the future, because now you have to sit down and look at, there's some need at offensive line, there's obviously some need at cornerback, but to make this offense really go, tight end would have to go to the front of the list. So this needs to be a Trey Burton game. That he needs to start to put his foot down. He needs to show that he's ready. I'm just talking about 5-6 catches. I don't care how many yards it is. I don't care about anything else. I just need him to be a threat in the pass game. The other one for me is going to be Javon Wims. I've said that Taylor Gabriel's probably going to be out. Javon, has shown an ability to play physical, to go up and get the ball. I think he's another guy that can run a slant route very well, which we can't expect Gabriel to do. So this needs to be another game where he's challenging somebody, and it's got to be more than just, the 18 or so snaps that he's played so far a game, right? Wims needs to show why everybody's so high on him, why, from all reports, from everything we see on Instagram, this guy puts in the work, right? He's constantly trying to improve his craft. He's constantly trying to run his routes effectively. This has to be a game where he lines up. We can give him in single coverage, that we could put him in the slot, whatever, have him run slants, have him be physical, and really start to stress those safeties. So I'm looking for a really big game from him just from a snap count perspective. He should get more into the Anthony Miller type snap count. We're talking 35 to 40, right? So doubling the overall amount of snaps that he sees per game, and that needs to be effective. Last but not least, the third key player for me is Ben Buster Screen. He's got a tough matchup with Thielen this week, But I really feel like Screen has played very well. Even on that touchdown pass that he gave up last week, he had responsibilities to make sure that that wasn't going to be in and out. And what he was in the process of basically handing that guy off to the safety when the throw came out. So well called play against the defense that was there. Screen went to go make sure that that outside coverage wasn't there, but he still fought on the ball and saw it. The dude's a fighter. He's physical. He's fast. He's around the ball. And we know how crafty Thielen is. He's a very good route runner. He knows every trick in the trade. When they pass right now, it's not Diggs, it's Thielen. He's really taken over as the true number one. He is the safety valve. Again, this is why Diggs is so disappointed at this point. Buster needs to play a really effective game. So that's my keys for the week. I'm going to go out and expect a 23-point score for the Bears. I mean, expect it to be 23-17. I think that's kind of a common phrase for me this year. But I just look at this as a game where we're going to have some turnovers because Mitch is going to try to push the ball vertically. I think we're going to get a fumble or two out of Cook. I think we're going to get an interception or two out of Cousins. And if it's one interception, I'll expect a fumble, right? I'm looking at a 3-turnover game. But I'm looking for us to define ourselves. I said it a lot on 100 Proof, and Phil kept laughing at me, and I get it. But everything that I'm seeing, everything that I've watched so far, is this team just wanted to get minimally to the first quarter of the season 2-2. You've got a real chance right now to be 3-1 without so much as really an offensive threat. Start to show this. Next week in Oakland, I think you're just going to see kind of what we saw in Tampa last year, where it's going to be this big game. But to get to that point, they've got to start showing it right now against Minnesota. And that, more than anything, is going to be the key. Because this game is going to set the tone offensively for what they will be this year and what they won't be this year. And that's going to change my overall expectations, because frankly, if they can't drive, if they don't go vertical, if they continue just to play ultra conservative, then I'm going to start to worry and lose my faith in a little bit at this being a Super Bowl contending team. Not all doom and gloom. I do expect this to be big, but I wanted to be honest, right? As Phil says, you always got to keep it 100, and that's what I'm trying to do. So that's it for this week's Cars Keys. As always, you can follow me on Twitter at CarsKeys1. Love interacting with everybody, and look forward to talking to you all over the week. Have a good one.